Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. As Craig LeBlanc from the Daily Parks and Recreation Show says, parks and recreation aren't just spaces, they're the soul of our communities. Across America, parks provide more than just a scenic escape. They're places where people connect, stay active, and create lasting memories. Parks promote physical health with trails, sports fields, and playgrounds while boosting mental well-being through the calming effects of nature. Recreation programs bring communities together, offering everything from fitness classes to cultural events. And as Craig often highlights, parks also play a key role in protecting the environment and driving local economies by attracting visitors and increasing property values. Whether it's a family picnic, a weekend hike, or simply enjoying the outdoors, parks and recreation are where life happens. Want to dive deeper into the stories behind America's parks? Tune in to the Daily Parks and Recreation Show with Craig LeBlanc for inspiring insights, tips, and updates about the spaces that bring us all together.
All right, so we're back with Verna Gates with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. I'm your host, Craig LeBlanc. Airing live from ARPA 2025, and Miss Verna is one of our vendors.
I am.
But she's also, in a former life, expert journalist that has an unbelievable background. I'd love to hear all about it. So maybe if you can start us back on why did you choose journalism?
Well, I've always wanted to be a writer. Since I picked up a pencil at age 5, I've always wanted to be a writer.
Where'd that come from?
I don't know. It just always has been there. And I was always writing little stories and telling
like fiction
stories.
Stuff or
yeah, and little taking the normal, expanding a little bit, that might have happened, and telling stories. Because I'm Southerner, we always in my day there was no internet. We just sat on the porch and told stories. That was our entertainment. And when I was a child, I spent like 4 months in the hospital for rheumatic fever, and all we could do all day was tell stories.
Wow.
So that's what we did. And
is that an inherited trait? Did anyone else in your family like this?
Loads of storytellers in my family. We've got Scottish blood.
Oh, multi-generational.
That's the red hair, yes. And I was born on St. Patrick's Day, so that goes a long way back. But that's always ever wanted to do. And when I went to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, of course, go Tar Heels. I wanted to major in journalism. And I also wanted to major in television because I was interested in television journalism, but I could only major in one or the other. So I majored in motion picture. I have a degree in motion pictures, television, and radio. So and when I got out, there was a new channel opening called CNN. It was all new, and Ted Turner was working on it. And being a bit of a persistent person than I am, which made me a good journalist, I called every week until one week they said, we need somebody to work for 3 days. Can you? And they weren't on the air yet. This was March, but they went on the air in June.
Wow.
Only like 20 employees at the time. They're starting to hire people. And I said, I'll do that. And I just never left. And I literally worked there for 2 years. I was producing a show. And they said, we never hired you. I was like, really? Well, make it fast because I got a show in 20.
Right. Now, what was the show that you were working on back?
I actually worked on it sounds awful, but I worked on the one of the most popular shows was the Hawaii show. Hawaii got no new news. And at midnight, we produced a huge show for them.
Wow.
And they were one of our biggest clients. And that was my show. I produced that show.
Just the state of Hawaii?
The state of Hawaii.
They just had no local news channel or
news.
Nothing?
No new national news. It was all recycled from the day before. So we had a huge following. It had one of the bigger shows in the middle of the night that I produced. Yeah.
That's crazy. And that was probably a midnight kind of show for you. What is the time difference between you?
I can't remember. It's like 6 or 8 hours, something like that. So we had a lot of fun with the overnight crew, though. It was good times. And I was one of the first 50 employees of CNN launching the network. It was a lot of fun. Everybody had to do everything. I might pull cables or write a story. It just depended on the moment, what was needed.
Now, you got into interviewing people. Is that something you did a lot of?
Well, mostly after I left CNN because I have the Southern accent. They don't like that on there much. But but when I left, I went with Time Magazine, and then I went with Reuters International.
Mhm.
And I worked for Reuters for the longest time. That's the largest news organization in the world. They had 1 billion readers and 470,000
Wow.
outlets at the time. And so, and I was the Alabama reporter.
Mm.
And Alabama, believe it or not, is one of the big news states.
Really?
If you think about it, we've always fought our battles here. You look at it, the Trail of Tears started here,
Mhm.
Civil War started here, Civil Rights started here.
If it's going to start, it's going to happen in Alabama.
Yeah, the first Indian U.S. Treaty was here with the first westward expansion. So many things happened here.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of great news here, from civil rights to environmental injustice to all kinds of trials. Eric Rudolph, the bomber, came here to get more publicity. Wanted to come to Birmingham. So there's just all kinds.
Why do you think that is? It's part of our culture, or
it's our culture.
in the water?
I don't know. We just, and maybe it's the iron ore. I don't know, but we find that it gets in the light. But we've always fought our battles here, and it kept me very busy for 15 years. Yeah, I worked for them.
Yeah, pretty good at football too.
Yeah, we got that going.
I know LSU has been struggling with that fact for a while.
Of course, I'm a sports agnostic, but yes.
Yeah, me too. A lot of my friends are into football. I live about an 8-minute walk from the stadium, so they come stay at my house. But I've never gotten as enthusiastic as they are.
Yeah, it's just not. There's so many more interesting things that I like to do.
I agree. Yeah. What do you think? What was your favorite thing to write about?
I loved it all, but I love writing about nature, especially. Like I wrote a story.
Always, or just?
When I was a reporter, there's so much environmental news because Alabama is number 4 in biodiversity in the nation.
Really?
And there's so many challenges to keeping so many species alive, and so many people came to Alabama to study plants and animals and such. And one of the stories I wrote was about the leatherback turtle. There was a gentleman here studying with one of our turtle experts at University of Alabama at Birmingham about turtles. And I wrote a story about his efforts to try to save this turtle. Went to like 5 continents. It traveled immense. I mean, we'll never travel in our lifetime as much as one leatherback turtle travels. And it went all over the world. It was like watching it pop up in small little places. And I just really hope things like that help that turtle survive.
Yeah.
Some of the things you write, you hope make the world a better place.
Now, is that love for nature, is that kind of what brought you to found this organization?
Absolutely. I was president of the Wildflower Society in Birmingham for 12 years. I'm a huge wildflower nerd, and I'm what's called the self-taught ethnobotanist.
Now, what is that?
It's a cultural study of plants. And when I started reading about the cute folklore stories, I thought, this is so interesting. And then it dawned on me, this was a system for people who couldn't read or write. Almost all those stories tell you something about the plant so you can identify it. So if it's edible, they have lots of wonderful stories about it, religious or storytelling about how, but each one of it talks, like you look at the violet, has 5 petals. It might talk about the Cinderella and her 3 sisters and tell us this story about that. Or you might have like the belladonna that's poisonous. It's evil. It's wicked. But they would tell these stories to pass on the knowledge to the next generation. Because there was no Walgreens on the corner in the 1800s.
Yeah.
Or 1700s, even when they were here. You had to know these plants, what you could eat, what would kill you, what was medicinal. And the stories relate to all those. Each story tells you something you need to know about the plant.
Where are these stories now? And imagine a lot of them are being lost, or just...
Not in my mind, but I teach a lot about them, which I really find fascinating. I've taught a lot of different places and colleges and different folks. And I've got a speaking gig tomorrow in Tuscaloosa about it. Don't say that in Auburn.
That's right.
But yes, no, but it's fascinating to me. But that's how I teach children. And I also, at the time when I started Fresh Air Family in 2006, I was covering the underage sex trade, and I was like, ugh. Nothing is worse than interviewing 12-year-old, 13-year-old ex-prostitutes. And I thought, we have just got to do something to strengthen our children.
No.
And so I studied the brain, and really what the boomers did and what I did in my childhood is getting outside, exploring nature, getting in the creeks, finding crawdads, learning about them. All of that is what actually builds the human brain. And I want to teach these children not what to think, but how.
I love that.
How to think.
Yeah.
Because if you can change, went to so many trials of people like, that was just dumb.
Mhm.
You know, if I can change a couple of decisions a child makes in a lifetime, it changes everything.
Mhm.
And the child prospers, the family prospers, and the community prospers. We all do better when people make better decisions.
Yeah, that's right. So tell us a little bit about this organization you have, Gross Out
It's
Camp.
Fresh Air Family. And I originally thought we'd have like a couple hundred people doing a hiking club, and little did I know.
That's for the whole family or just for the
Whole
kids?
family.
Okay,
We
so
still have
everybody.
a lot of family events. We have we have probably about 500 events every year for families to participate in. And we also had, last summer, we had 28 summer camps and 78 summer camps in 26 locations.
How long are there? Is it like
Each one's a week,
so a whole week.
a whole week, 9 to
It's like
5.
camp, like tent camping, outdoor kind of thing,
Lord,
or
no.
cabins, or
We don't keep them overnight.
yeah.
Send them home at 6 o'clock, 5, 6
Oh, I
o'clock.
see. Come and go.
Day camps.
Yeah, yeah.
And we had about 1,200 children. And those about 42% came on some form of scholarship. We have a policy: we never turn a child away for money.
love
We
it.
find a way.
Yeah. Fantastic. And so what's y'all now, where's y'all footprint mostly?
We're in Alabama. We have our farthest place is North Tonawanda, New York.
There we go.
Yeah, we have a camp up there, and those Yankee children love Gross Out Camp. It was a test how it would work outside Alabama. But you know what? Being in a creek is just as much fun today as it when with cave children did it. We have to drag children out of the creek at the end of the day.
Know.
They love it.
I've had to drag my own kids out of.
Yeah, they
They're
love
like little
it.
raisins, and they don't want to leave.
No, they don't. And really, truly, being outside and getting in a creek, getting in the woods, and having a day that's not just super planned, super, as we say, parents always want to know, what's the schedule? We don't have a schedule. We have a plan. The plan is we're going to do this, but if a child finds a salamander, we're not going to say, put that thing down. We got crafts now.
Mm-mm.
We're going to stay there maybe all day until we find all we want to know about that animal, and everybody gets to look for one. And kids don't get to do that very often. Where they're always scheduled 9 to 10. Whereas there's a day where they can just enjoy and explore and learn, and that's where really the magic happens to me for education.
Yeah. Why is that important to be able to learn and explore in education?
Well, I saw so many people, like I said, making stupid mistakes. And I've been in a lot of schools. I've done a lot of school programs, a lot of things. People invite me to come in and talk. And I see children just not learning. And the screens that we have, all the studies are saying they actually reduce brain tissue. I mean, actually, and we're not working together. So we have screen-free camps where there are only 20 kids, and you've got to learn how to get along with everybody because not that many of you there, and you've got to learn how to get along with different people and different things. And we're not really doing that anymore. It killed me. Yesterday, I played pickleball, and 2 kids were waiting there. Both had a computer in front of them. Like going, why didn't they have a ball? It's a park or a net or something or books or crayons. Because really, and we're all seeing children getting all kinds of problems from this. Myopia, their eyes are made to look into the distance. When you spend this time like here, you're getting nearsighted, and children are getting nearsighted at rapid paces.
I can believe it because they get dialed in for hours and hours. It's difficult to unplug, I would imagine.
Yes, and it's not good for the brain. And I mean, my studies were, I have a degree in TV. I worked in television. I haven't owned one in 30 years because I know what it does to the brain, which is nothing good.
Yeah.
Even good programs are not great for the brain.
Yeah, especially, and I don't know all the studies around it, but, watching that right up until you close your eyes, that you really should have a break from it so that you can go into deep sleep.
Yes,
the last thing you see is that blue screen.
Yeah, it messes up your sleep patterns.
Yeah.
We're all a little guilty of it.
Yeah.
Because I'm bad about waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning going, what's the news? Because I was a news junkie for so many years. But it's really not good for us. We need to be reading books, actual books. And there's a lot of studies that say that you can't, reading online does not equate to reading a book. There's something different about it. And same thing with cursive writing. I'm a great believer in cursive writing.
Yeah, tell me more about. I've heard that there's something different, something formative about cursive writing? What
It's a
can you?
brain connection, because when I was a writer I made my living as a writer for 35 years.
Mhm.
Anytime I had what's called writer's block, or I would write it out in longhand. I would write it, and it's a brain connection. It stimulates the brain in a way other things don't.
Mm.
And also, there we need to learn cursive, because there are places you go where you cannot print. You can't take a computer in. You can't record
Mm.
things like court.
Right.
Courtroom. You can't take your phone in. They'll take your phone away. And I've seen people. I had one kid interview me who just could only print. It was miserable.
Mm.
But she was so slow, and it had to repeat everything. I'm like, you need to learn cursive if you're going to be a reporter, because you can scribble it out really quickly. And if you can't do that, if you're in court,
Mm.
you might miss information that could
Yeah.
save you a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Now, how important do you think that writing is just for human development? Maybe just being able to express yourself through that.
Writing has always been a critical part of what we do. Diaries, writing schedules, writing even plans of the day. Writing is the words are critical to our lives.
Mhm.
And you can't really connect with people unless you can and you might need to write notes, thank you notes. God forbid, they're almost a lost art.
Mhm.
We make all of our kids write thank you notes, and it's horrifying, the spelling and in third grade, I can read my letters I wrote to my grandmother in little cursive, and most
Oh,
of it was
yeah.
spelled well. And kids go crazy when I think when I was in 10th grade that we had to write in the blue books. Remember the blue books?
Mhm.
And every misspelled word and grammatical error was a letter grade off.
Wow.
If we did that today, no one would pass
Oh,
English.
I'd be guilty of that one.
No one. I don't know if I could even pass it today, because I've gotten spoiled with, the spell check and such things.
Yeah.
But it's critical to our brains are wired for language and for storytelling and for sharing of information via
Mhm.
the voice and via the brain, and even in the written word. The
Yeah.
written word has been so important. Writing letters are almost
Mhm.
gone. Writing thank you notes, writing just your grocery list.
Yeah.
You got to be able to do those things.
It seems like it's definitely, I'm seeing that we're all input, we're all consume. And I just don't mean about food and stuff like that, but of course that too. But it's like we're watching videos, we're watching movies, we're listening to things, but it seems like there's a huge part of us that's not pushing out, that's not expressing itself, that we've almost 100% now turned inward.
Inwards. And there's a huge epidemic of loneliness.
Mhm.
And not expressing ourselves. That's a human nature to be able to express ourselves, to talk to people, because really communicating via written and also verbal.
Mhm.
I remember the other day, not too long ago, a friend of mine had been hiking, and we were hot. We'd gone like 6 miles, and we were in the hot sun, and we went to a McDonald's. We sat down. There was a group of girls, like 6 or 8 girls, like 13, 14 years old. It was completely silent.
Mm.
They were texting each other across the table. I'm like, what?
Right.
And I remember one time we went to, a place, and there were these beautiful people in a beautiful prom, and no one was talking.
Mm.
Communication is a core human need. And we're
Mm.
seeing mental health and loneliness and stress come from the fact that we don't know how to do that anymore.
Tell me more about that. This expression is a human need.
It is a human need. We've always needed it. We invented language from our brains as humanoids coming up in order to express our need for food or for entertainment, to tell stories. I grew up with people telling stories on the porch. There was nothing else to do, and it was hilarious
Mm.
and fun and funny, and connected you to people in a way that nothing else will.
Yeah.
You can't sit and watch a movie together and get that
Right.
ever, because you're watching somebody else's creativity, someone else's productivity, someone else's thinking, and you're not expressing your own or your own
Mhm.
emotions or your own humor or your own thoughts.
Yeah. It seems like one of man's superpowers is it is a collaborative creature.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens to humanity when we're no longer collaborating, we're no longer communicating? I wonder what that's, because it seems like we're not this lone wolf species.
We're not alone. We're herd.
We're a community.
We're
creature.
herd creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are, and it's we're seeing it. Anxiety. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Anxiety is up. I get some kids say, why don't you have your driver's license? I have anxiety. I'm like, dear God, my 16th birthday, my butt was sitting and waiting online at 8:30 in the morning to get my driver's license because I had freedom.
Yeah.
But it's this dependence. And if you can't communicate, how do you live your life? How do you express yourself? How do you avoid anger? How do you express love? How do you, I mean, I was reading I was listening to children, young people being interviewed. They said, well, the first I love yous are texted, and you don't get to see someone's face. You don't get to see the feeling of that. You don't get to have that warmth and that feeling because you've got a screen between you.
On one of the podcasts that we had, it was how we have the Zoom meetings, and a lot of my podcasts are done remotely, but you only have sight and sound. Those are the only two senses. So your taste, touch, and your feel, those are deleted. And so you've got the mind consuming through all five senses, and three are nearly just unserved or shut off. The in person is where you would go smell the forest. You can touch the grass. You can, taste, whatever's edible out there. And behind the screen, you've only got two. And so that's why I think what you're doing here, as far as getting people out in nature, especially the kids, but I'd say probably more important than the kids is just getting the kids' parents out there. I think sometimes they're the ones that need the break from the screens and stuff as well.
Well, it horrifies me. The other night I was at dinner, and there was a mother, a father, and a child, and none of them were speaking. The child was maybe 5 years old, 6 maybe, and they all had a device. I'm like,
Wow.
Why are you spending $100 on dinner to not even talk to each other?
Yeah.
What is the point of that? And they didn't do the whole meal. It's just like,
yeah.
And we see children. I see so many lonely children, just absolutely lonely children.
And more connected than we've ever been, and yet alone.
Yeah. But we're giving them not enough freedom in the outdoors and too much freedom online. Because I have a friend who's a 6th grade teacher in a very upscale neighborhood here in Alabama. It's one of the top 10 zip codes in the country. And she teaches 6th grade, and she's in a sexually hostile environment because all of the children now have seen porn.
Oh, yeah. It's hitting you at a young age. I mean, it's instantly available on any screen.
Childhood doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring that back.
Yeah.
That innocence, that sense of exploration, that development of the brain that has to think, that has to evaluate what you're doing, that has to take some responsibility. If you stump your toe, you stump your toe. And you get to explore your world a little bit on a child's pace.
Yeah.
Not being rushed here to this, to that, and the other. And children need that desperately.
So tell us the good news about what you're seeing out there. So now that you've got this camp and you're seeing like real time, you get to see these kids experiencing nature. With some of those good stories that you're witnessing firsthand.
Oh, I'm seeing children just come out of shells like you wouldn't believe, that never wanted to necessarily be outside, but learn so much that take. You know what I love seeing so much is the joy of learning. They have no idea they're learning. Here in Auburn, we're in Auburn today. I taught an Auburn class camp a couple of years ago, and I created this little game where you kill and eat each other, but it's food web. You're a tiger, you're a lion, whatever. And they loved it so much. We went through every ecosystem I could think of, and so they wanted to do dinosaurs, terrestrial and marine. They knew that, yeah. And I'm sitting there with a 6-year-old, consultant, and we're going through, all the names of the dinosaurs, and he actually fired me because I couldn't remember which one had the spiky tail. But so they took it over, and they started playing these games with school animal adaptations is huge in elementary school, and they started, creating their own creatures and, devising it. And
you define animal adaptation?
Oh, well, like camouflage. A frog has a tongue that catches flies.
Right.
Your camouflage. Your tiger looks like the wet forest they live in.
Anything they do to kind of better themselves. Survive.
The spots on the leopard. That they look, and birds that have adapted to different types of Arctic conditions or
Mhm.
whatever. So they have to adapt in ways to their, environments. So they eventually took it over where they started creating their own creatures and had so much fun and had no idea how much they were learning. They were creative. They would build nests and steal each other's eggs. They were, having a wonderful time and had no clue how much they were learning because they were having to create the adaptations.
Wow.
Or you might be a color, of your skin, depending on your sun, or all the things that we do that we have adapted in so many ways to the cold or whatever. And all these animals, it was just so much fun watching them learn when they had no clue that's what they were doing.
Yeah. And the thing is, humans are probably, I would think that is, again, our superpower is adaptability.
Adaptability. And this year we've done it 19 years and I have 4 original campers who are now old enough and they're all underserved kids. And there 4 of them just got back to me with thanking me for helping them get advanced degrees.
Wow.
One just graduated with honors from Purdue Medical Veterinary School, the top of the nation.
Yeah.
One is the only African American woman in the Southeast, and I mean, it's the nation, with a degree in a PhD in molecular ecology, wildlife ecology. A guy who got his PhD in plant science. He wants to be the first Black botanical gardens director. Another one has a doctorate in North anestheticism. I can never say that. And then none of them ever thought they could go to school.
Wow.
But because we taught them that they can learn, a lot of children today don't know they can learn because especially boys are stuck in these classrooms where they got to sit, and they're cramming. And where they learn by touching and moving and doing. And when you just see them into people who can learn, who are enjoying learning, who are finding a crawdad and want to look at every element of that crawdad, every part of it. They want to explore all these things. It's just very exciting to see children who really maybe for the first time enjoyed learning because they're not sitting all day. They don't even have recess. Some of these places don't have recess or even lunches. They have silent lunches where there's no break in their day.
And compared to nature, the environments that we sit in, say here at this hotel or at home in front of a screen, compare that to everything you can discover just in a patch of woods in the middle of nowhere. It's just unbelievable. Just the diverse information and life in general, just exploring living things.
Finding a little ringneck snake or a millipede or a roly-poly or, bugs and little snakes and creatures. It's phenomenal.
We live in these sterile environments where it's like all life is just out. And then we just kind of cage ourselves in this.
And they really need it. We're seeing a lot of cancers coming up with children and immune systems not being developed because they never get dirty. We guarantee tired, dirty children. Parents love me.
That's it. That's a way to boost an immune system. Throw them out in the woods.
I had a couple of years ago, this kid was in one of our camps and he was sitting in a mud puddle. I mean, he had mud hair. He had his ear. He had mud all over him. And his mother comes up saying, "Honey, you're filthy. You're not getting in my car." And I'm sitting going, "We're not keeping him." But and his wife followed his mother is marching back to the car going, "Mom, you sent me to gross out camp. What'd you think was going to happen?"
That's a good response. You need to put that on y'all's letterhead.
What'd you think was going to happen? I'm going to get dirty. And they love it. Kids have not, we think kids have gotten more sophisticated, but I'm here to tell you they're just getting in a creek, getting in the woods, and being on child time is just as much fun as it has been for the millennial.
Yeah. And one good thing I think about humans is if an event like yours that you're putting on, it doesn't take much to just turn a kid around.
No.
Like they can literally be glued to the screen, all the bad habits that we think are out there, and all of a sudden 1 week experience can just be the pivotal moment. It can be the crossroad.
I've had so many parents tell me that, and kids, and kids come in and I had this one kid that's so funny. He came in, he was like a 4th grade, big kid, bigger than me. Of course, I'm not terribly tall, but he sat there and just put his head between his knees, and just wailed, and because his mother left him at camp, and my male instructor just ignored him until he finally came over and said, you know, you can continue doing that if you want, but we need the table. Can you move over here?
Let him keep crying. We're good with that, but we need the table.
We need the table. And he just like perked up, like no one's going to pay attention to him. No,
Yeah.
you know, he's not. And he's been a great camper. Came back next 2 weeks, you know.
Yeah.
So
Just got to have your little moment, try it out, and then get back into it.
You know, some of these kids need to realize they just need a little push that realize that we're out in nature. This is different rules.
Yeah.
It's not a classroom.
So how do people find what you're doing? Or
We
tell
have
us a bit
2
more about-
websites. We have www.freshairfamily.org and www.grossoutcamp.org.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that y'all don't turn any kids away, that you're able to find a way to get them on those trips.
You wouldn't believe it. Last year, one of the camps I went to, out of 22 children, that's our max. We only had 6 kids with a parent, not 2, but 1.
Wow.
And this is what we're seeing in our children. And that, you know, and it's always been that if anyone believes in you, an organization or a person, you can make it.
Yeah.
And we want to be that organization that believes in children.
Oh, well, that's a great mission to have.
It is.
Yeah. Talk about fulfilling.
Yeah, it really is. And I just sent 2 girls this summer, asked me this spring, I should say, asked me to write recommendation letters. They're going to be biologists. You know, that's a
Fantastic.
great career for anyone, especially a woman.
Oh, yeah.
So it's exciting that it can happen for them.
Yeah. Well, guys, y'all can do anything, especially if you
can.
get out there among nature and just go for it. There is nothing holding you back.
It'll build your brain up. All the studies tell you that's the best way to get smarter.
That's it. Well, thank you so much, Verna, for
Thank you.
coming on
It's
the
a pleasure
show.
chatting with you.
Yeah. Love
Thank
what
you
you're
so much.
doing. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Today, we'll discuss how parks and recreation improve the well-being of our communities. These spaces promote healthy living, foster connections, and support local economies. Parks encourage active lifestyles by offering areas for walking, running, and cycling, while also improving mental health by reducing stress and boosting mood. They also strengthen communities by providing gathering spaces for local events, social interactions, and recreational programs. Economically, parks contribute over $140 billion annually. They support businesses, create jobs, and even raise property values, benefiting both the community and local economy. Parks are accessible to everyone, with inclusive programs for all ages and abilities, ensuring everyone can enjoy these spaces. You can help support parks by volunteering, donating, or simply visiting. Every action ensures parks thrive for future generations. Thank you for watching the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Follow us for more insights on how parks enhance our communities.